Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the office. Welcome to the morning grind. I hope that you are having a good day. I hope you had a good day yesterday, a good Saturday, and that you're going to have a good Sunday. I'm a few minutes late this morning. I realized yesterday, the second time this summer, I have been stung. I got stung by a hornet. Or actually, this is the third time this summer, but it's two incidents. I got stung twice, like 2 weeks ago or something like that. I don't know. It's been forever since I've been stung, but twice cutting the grass now, I have been stung by a hornet. And last time I, took Benadryl and all of that, and it completely knocked me out. As far as knocked me out sleeping. And so I lost all that day. And then yesterday I was like, you know what? It doesn't hurt that bad. I guess I just won't, I'm not gonna worry about taking anything. So I didn't, and it really wasn't that big a deal. When I woke up this morning, I can't walk. my whole lower leg is swollen. I wouldn't stand up on it. And it completely fell out from under me. I've been crawling around the house this morning. So maybe I should have taken some Benadryl or something like that. So we will see. But at least I might just be sitting in this chair all day. So hopefully nothing like that happened to anybody else here. Who have we got here? We've got BGD. Welcome. And PH. Micah, good morning. Please do hit the like button. Subscribe. Thank you so much for the reminder, Micah. Stray is here. Good morning, Stray. PH says, has anyone checked out Crowd and Skull from Runehammer? No. Today we're going to looking at a couple of we have a light day today. I've got two news topics to look at because I do want to look at what Hasbro is doing with AI because I've seen some things go by on YouTube on that. So some of you may be actually more up on that. I know people have been talking about that, and so I figured there must be some kind of news report or something about that, and there is. So I want to see what they're doing. And then also Keith Crow in the News for the Grind section put out that there's an old world development diary, and I was big into Warhammer Fantasy Battles with my brother. Now we've actually started playing Kings of War, but I want to take a look at that, and if we have time, I want to look at something that Cameron sent regarding song analysis. So we will see. Good morning, Zero the Blade. Good morning. Crown and Skull. So that was actually what I was gonna say. Is that something we should look up? Crown and Skull, Runehammer. Well, we'll see what that is. Because today's going to be kind of a light day, so I know I have not seen that at all. It does say download the free player's guide, so we'll just look at this page and see what's going on there. Good morning, Dungeon Master. What's the event that spawned this particular morning grind? Well, just the fact that I had seen stuff go by about Hasbro and something about some AI board gaming and things like that. So there must be something going on. And like I said, I found the news report, so we'll see what it's about. You know, back during the OGL debacle and when they were going, it doesn't look like this is specifically about D&D, but back during the OGL debacle, I said they're gonna. I mean, they were saying no, we're not trying to do AI dungeon masters for Dungeons and Dragons and all of that. But I had a conversation when I was like, when I said, of course they are. Like if they're not looking at how to use AIs for dungeon masters and things like that, somebody should tell them to start. Because if they don't do it, somebody else will. I mean, we've seen what Robert here has been doing. I mean, that's one of the very first things that many of us thought about when we were using something like ChatGPT, was trying to figure out whether we could play some type of text-based adventure games or if it could DM us through an adventure. So I mean, that's the first kind of thing that we're thinking of. So you're really telling me that in that case, like Wizards of the Coast is not thinking about that. I mean, maybe they're not, but if they're not, somebody else is. But okay, so what's going on with AI in board gaming? All right, let's see. I used to play Bretonia. I played a Bretonian army. Now in Kings of War, I'm also playing a human army, but it's a sort of Game of Thrones themed army, because I'm using the miniatures from A Song of Ice and Fires from CMON. So I've got a bunch of northern armies painted, northern miniatures painted, and I've been painting up. I got a bunch of Lannisters sitting over here that I'm gonna use as like Royal Guardsmen or something. But classically, I played Bretonia, and unfortunately, many of my miniatures were destroyed. They melted. They were actually left in a hot. I mean, it's my fault, I guess. They melted. All right, yeah. Let's breathe and sip, and then let's go to the news here and see what's going on. Everybody got your drink this morning? So 2 deep breaths, complete exhales, and then let's take a sip of your favorite beverage this morning. And sip. Dungeon Master says, have you ever seen the WoW board game? I think I have. But man, I have not thought about that in a long time, and I have not. I mean, it's an older game, right? You're talking about an older version of that game. It's not something that just came out, right? I think that I have, and it has a, but I don't think I ever played it. I know I didn't have it. I don't think I ever played it. All right, so this is apparently what people are talking about as far as the AI board gaming here. It says Hasbro's AI aspirations include a partnership with a novel digital board game platform. Okay, and I hadn't heard about this. The collaboration will leverage Teburu's smart sensing technology and artificial intelligence. So, and these are painted miniatures from the Bad Karmas and the Curse of the Zodiac, the first board game designed for the Teburu platform. Okay, so Hasbro, the publisher of Dungeons & Dragons and Magic the Gathering. Let me try to make this larger for you. There we go. Hasbro, the publisher of Dungeons & Dragons, Magic the Gathering, and dozens of classic board games, will partner with Explored, makers of the Teburu digital board game platform. We're going to see what that is. Okay, so we're going down a rabbit hole here. So Teburu could be the digital board game system that finally catches on. A partnership with Vampire the Masquerade could broaden its appeal. Okay, let's find out what this is first. Is anybody playing this? Is anybody, or you got this? After nearly 2 decades covering Gen Con, the world's largest tabletop convention, which is next week, by the way. Anybody going to Gen Con? I'm not. But that is next week. Got a lot of friends who will be up there. After nearly 2 decades of covering Gen Con, the world's largest tabletop gaming convention, I got pretty sick and tired of hearing about digitized board games and table consoles. Touch-sensitive screens, motion-sensing cameras, RFID-enabled bits, AAA licensed titles, virtual reality solutions. I've heard literally every pitch that's been made in the last few years. The trouble is that nearly everyone hawking a digital board game console is selling an overpriced solution for a problem that doesn't exist. There are plenty of great board games available right now, thank you, most of which I can get sent to my house overnight, and none of which require a firmware update in order to run. Oh, Zero the Blade's going to be there. Working Gen Con. I am sure that's going to be fun. Touch-sensitive screens, in order to run. But what if there was a digital solution that was actually adding something to the experience, a nearly transparent digital platform that contributed to the immersion and speed of play? Earlier this month, I was introduced to Teburu, a startup project by experienced game developers at Explored. I was skeptical at first, but if something does succeed in this fanciful little niche, I think it could look a lot like Teburu. So what is this? Is there an announcement video? Well, what is it? I saw somebody with a digital tabletop, but it doesn't look like it's this. Okay, that does not tell you very much about it. At the center of the Teburu system is a rectangular game board just about the same size as your average Monopoly board. It's just that in this one is covered on one side with a thin pre-printed adhesive sheet full of sensors. A compatible board game goes on top. On the bottom of each of your pieces are RFID tags, which the game board can detect as they move across the surface. Okay, so they're not doing like trying to do a screen for a board. Okay, so that's I saw somebody doing that with like squares that could be connected together for board gaming and different, so that they were going to play your, be a tabletop screen for your board game. So this might be better than that. Well, like I've done the booth thing. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I mean, you built the booths, done a lot of, I don't know that I will ever go back and set up a new booth. Maybe by next year, I might have something to actually put in a booth. but I don't really see myself ever setting up a booth again. It's a lot of trouble. Well, it didn't look like. So it says that you set a compatible board game on top of it. A compatible board game goes on top. So it doesn't look like you're trying to use a display. On the bottom of each of your pieces is an RFID tag, which the game board can detect as they move across its surface. Attached to the game board is a dongle with 2 antennas, one that connects to the RFID chip and the other for Bluetooth. That's for the dice. 2 simple 6-sided dice, just smart enough to know which side is up, and for other Bluetooth-capable devices like speakers, tablets, and smartphones. The most complicated item, there was only D6s. The most complicated item is a singular, fancier plinth for larger miniatures. Call them boss miniatures that light up with multicolored LEDs at 4 points along its edge. That's it. 4 mildly intelligent, by today's standard, peripheral devices all connected to the smartphones everyone keeps in their pockets all day. It did. Okay, so they were using their own phones. So what does this digital kit allow you to do? Well, first of all, it allows the game to always know where players are on the board. That enables developers to program behavior into enemies or environments, for that matter, that kick off based on where you move your pawn. In my demo of the Bad Karmas and the Curse of the Zodiac, that meant, I guess that's what they were playing, that meant each of the 4-player characters had a unique sound for their footsteps. When my character stepped out over the lava pit, I could hear the pops and fizzles of the molten rock beneath. Using my smartphone, I was able to select a skill to use from a small hand of cards shown on my screen. Picking up and rolling the dice, I got a 6 that made a unique sound as I succeeded hitting the boss. That boss's plinth lit up, indicating that I had dropped its shields on its rear left side. Then play past the player to my left, whose turn began with a unique musical flourish. Okay. So these are the miniatures with the RFID chip in them. At every moment during the demo, the Teburu system was supporting my efforts to play the game. Hyperlinked keywords were accessible, instantly popping up small menus to remind me of their in-game effects. The focus of the interface traveled intelligently around the room, drawing the entire party's focus to the main screen, a tablet, where global information about the encounter was displayed, and alternatively on my own screen that served as my personal sideboard. It's easy to see how Teburu could enable solo gameplay. Of course, I was thinking about that too. An extremely popular option in board games since the beginning of the pandemic. Rather than being a cumbersome oddity or the singular focus of every interaction in the game, Teburu was just helping me along, adding to the experience without detracting from it. It was wonderful. The hardest part was the user experience or the game flow, said Ricardo Landi, Teburu's head of design. You have the game board, you have the physical dice, you have 3 or 4 or 5 screens to look at. It's about how the game tells you what to do and when the game tells you to do it. It's about the timing and rhythm of the game. Because if things happen too fast, you lose control. If they happen too fast, you're not going to want to play. For someone who's spending hundreds or maybe thousands of dollars on elaborate plastic terrain trays, dice towers, paint, and other odds and ends, sounds like a lot of us around here, to support our favorite tabletop games, Teburu suddenly makes sense. I could definitely see myself ponying up the required $100 or so for the system to upgrade my favorite games. Okay, so it is only $100 to the system. Okay, so it's making use of your own tablet and your own. I mean, I guess that makes things easier when you're not having to buy more screens. Because the ones that I've seen where the board game is or the digital thing is supposed to be your screen, those things seemed like they were expensive. However, a catalog of just one game, which hasn't even shipped to backers yet. Oh, so this was a Kickstarter or something, or some kind of crowdfunding? I missed this one. Well, I don't. Stray says I don't trust this. All it takes is one spilt beer on the board. Well, that's all it takes to mess up my regular Hero Quest board too. Okay. Well, let's see. However, the catalog of just one game, which hasn't shipped to backers yet, is pretty limited. The team tells me that most of the hardware work is out of the way at this point. Development started 5 years ago, says founder and CEO David Garofalo, leading to 9 patents. To make sure the company had enough hardware to meet the potential demand, Garfalo says he has stockpiled the necessary components needed to make more, mostly the hard-to-find specialty chips and antenna needed for connectivity. They're just waiting, ready for the next wave. Okay, so the only thing that's missing are more great games, and at least 2 more have been announced so far. So the Jewel of the Crown is a new partnership with Paradox Interactive. So Teburu will be creating original games based on European publishers' World of Darkness properties. Starting with Vampire the Masquerade, their hope is that the line will expand to both Werewolf the Apocalypse and Hunter the Reckoning. The team at Teburu wants the trilogy of games to be connected in some way, with the events of one game flowing to the next. Okay, so that is this system. So I completely missed this system, I guess. When was this written? Okay, this was August in 2022. So it seems like Hasbro then is on board with this system. Good morning, Michael Connor. Hail Lobster Unbreaded. Yeah, Skylanders. Yeah. Sounds they want to sell the miniatures Skylanders style. I know a little bit about that. Only just that's something that my nephews had, right? I don't remember what they did, but they had the physical miniatures, but then you did something with them and they were interactive on the computer, on like the video game. I forget what platform it was, right? So we make board games more complicated. Well, maybe, but the solo play stuff is interesting. If it runs Gloomhaven, if it did something like run you through Gloomhaven, or like I like the AI, that's not the AI, but it's the tablet stuff for Mansions of Madness. I love Mansions of Madness. I've also played the Lord of the Rings game, Journeys in Middle Earth. Yeah, that's got a tablet that goes through. So if that became more, I mean, I could potentially go with that. Well, that's possible. James says, I think people are going to adopt things like this at droves first, but eventually there will be a movement back to retro style board game. We're already definitely in, for those of us who are in the board gaming community, this is all, we're already big on the retro stuff. So let's see what Hasbro is trying to do with it then. The Rhode Island-based company said Monday in a news release that the collaboration would help it explore the integration of smart sensing technology, AI, and dynamic multimedia. We envision a future where technology seamlessly integrates into analog gaming experiences, says Adam Beal, a senior vice president and general manager of Hasbro's gaming, in the new release. Working with Explored enables us to deliver innovative games to our players and fans, limitless digital expansions to physical games, seamless onboarding, and powerful AI-driven game mechanics. Explored leapt onto the tabletop scene in 2002 with its crowdfunding campaign for Bad Karmas and the Curse of the Zodiac. So how did that? Oh, so it was a Kickstarter. Completely went under my radar. Teburu presents the Bad Karma. 1,174 backers pledged 311,000 euro to bring this to life. Okay, so it was a Kickstarter. Completely did not know that happened. A miniatures-heavy board game that also included an early version of its novel Teburu platform. Using RFID tags, Bluetooth, and smart devices like phones, tablets, and televisions, Explored successfully proved out its technology in the consumer space. Polygon gave it a test drive last year and was a bit taken aback by how well it worked. From our feature story. Okay, we just read that, what that is. So what is this? Oh, okay, so yeah, so we read that. While everything in our 2002 demo was pre-generated by developers, the recent rise in popularity of generative AI, it's easy to see how a program like ChatGPT could be used to expand on existing board games. Hasbro could also choose to leverage the technology in other areas, including its in-development virtual tabletop solution for Dungeons & Dragons, which, like I said, has got to be inevitable. Hasbro being involved increases my skepticism, Michael Connor says. So, a partnership with Xlord gives Hasbro the hardware and connectivity it needs, as well as the design expertise required to make the next step possible. It's also important to note that leaders of both of these companies have deep roots in the world of video games. Now, we talked about that during the AI debacle. Hasbro CEO Chris Cox is a former Microsoft employee, as is the new president of Wizards of the Coast, Cynthia W. Williams. Xlord lead game designer Ricardo Lani used to design games for Ubisoft. His company website boasts more than 25 years of experience. Okay, well, that's actually not a tremendous amount of information. Xlord still has multiple other board game projects currently in the works, including the Teburu-based Vampire the Masquerade, Milan Uprising, and it's raising funds on GameFound. Oh, that's on. So this is. Let's see what's going on over there on GameFound. Okay, that's not. Maybe this is the right link. This looks like it goes to GameFound. Milan Uprising. Oh, so that is going on right now on this Teburu system. 26 days left, 375,000 euro raised, 1,410 backers. So, all right. So, if you want to jump in, I guess it is here. What are the actual backer? Oh, here are the pledges. Rewards. Well, that's a $350 or euro bundle right there for Vampire the Masquerade, Milan Uprising, Collector's Edition, the core set. Okay, there's just Milan Uprising, the Vampire the Masquerade, 90 euros. Deluxe pledge plus the Teburu bundle is 190. Expect to hear more about the partnership at Hasbro's quarterly earnings call, scheduled for August 3rd, the first day of this year's Gen Con tabletop convention in Indianapolis. Okay. Well, I thought that maybe they were doing going to talk more about the actual AI integration. So this they're not talking about, well, in this case they weren't necessarily talking about like the AI planning the game for you, integrating it. Well, here's Robert. Robert's been working with the Chat GPT. Says, I'm still searching for persistence in the AI Children of the Grave, debating if launching it without it is desirable. The game is very far along, but as I play, I find myself frustrated at its limitations. Yeah, so Robert has been working with Chat GPT and so the persistence of the game world when trying to do a game like one of our text-based adventures. So that is what is going on there. So it seems like we're skeptical over here. I would try it out. I mean, if somebody had one, I would definitely try out the game and see how it actually integrates. We'll see. I do like playing. Well, I think like playing Hero Quest with the app. You know, that's been better than I was expecting. I mean, it's been a lot better than I was expecting. Like, okay, we could replace Zargon with the app. But for like the solo quests I've been doing, that's worked pretty well. All right, let's go over here and take a look at what's going on inside the world of trying to bring back Warhammer, because I have been interested in that. Jappert says, I wonder if the token window is a big problem for AI GMs. Well, that seems to be a big part of it. Yeah, that's my vote anyway. Oh, to have Robert launch the minimum viable product. See what happens. Okay, so we know that they destroyed the Warhammer world, and like I said, my brother and I were thinking about getting back into things, but there's no Warhammer. He was like, "Should we just play Warhammer?" And I was like, "Well, there is no Warhammer Fantasy Battles anymore. That was years ago. They went over to Age of Sigmar." And I looked at Age of Sigmar, and it didn't look all that appealing to me. So Age of Sigmar is not anything that I've done, but it looks like they are now trying perhaps realizing there's a whole group of people who are now the right age who used to play Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and maybe you could get those people back into Warhammer and perhaps do that with their kids or their nieces, nephews, things like that. So they're trying to bring this back, and it's called Warhammer Old World. So I don't really know much about any of that. When we embarked upon a daunting task of designing Warhammer the Old World, we wanted to create a modern game in the mold of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, a reimagining of a classic tabletop war game that would appeal to both veterans of the Old World and newcomers to this most venerable and fantasy realms alike. With this in mind, we set about playing lots of games. That does look like a classic Warhammer Fantasy Battle tabletop from Games Workshop. I have to say, I'm a fan of the multi-basing. I mean, I remember having all kinds of, all the separate individual figures on the square bases and try to do a war game with them, which is not typically how war games are done. But I do like the multi-basing and being able to just take the whole units, like Kings of War does. Here's one of my, what I'm calling the Royal Crossbowmen. So there, that's just one stand of archers. And that is a whole lot easier to transport, move around, and you can, make them a little bit diorama-like instead of the Warhammer way of doing it, where everybody has got, every single miniature is different, is individually based. There are a few negatives, but in the grand scheme of things, I think the advantages of multi-basing greatly surpasses the individual bases. That's what the End of Times was fun, but the Age of Sigmar is just 40K in a fantasy setting. Yeah, that's what it feels like. James says the Old World is hoping to get is hopefully going to feel like Warhammer Fantasy Battle 9th. I'm hopeful. No, yeah, individual for skirmish games or warband games. Yeah, individual models are the way to go. But for this, it is easier just to standardize the size of your standardize the size of your regiments and then enjoy them. You've been losing power even on a clear day. It sounds like what used to happen over here. Oh, getting into 10 millimeter, everything from 100 Years War to World War II. We did. There was a Civil War game going, but I think it was 10 millimeter. I had some 10 millimeter Civil War guys for one of the tabletop stores I went to when I was in college. They were big into historical wargaming, and they did a big campaign of American Civil War. For several months, the designers regularly assembled to play games of every edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, reminding ourselves of rules that in some cases we hadn't played for decades. We wanted to identify which parts of the classic game we enjoyed the most and which parts we felt could be improved upon. Here are some of the tweaks we've made to the rules. Drawing the battle lines. Warhammer, the Old World, is a game of massed combat. Large armies form into regimented units that advance with grim intent towards the foe. The rules encourage players to field units of varying sizes based on their type and role. Perhaps most importantly, the formations units adopt, how wide and deep they are just as significant as where they are deployed and how quickly they advance. Which is something you lose when multi-based. But see, I never found that during any particular game, we often did troop redeployment into different types of into different unit sizes, like going out to changing the number of ranks and files and things like that. I don't remember that happening in the game a lot. But if you do have every one of your miniatures individually based, then yes, you could change up how many ranks and files and things like that, how wide or how deep, and that could have some type of impact on the game. Now that part I do like, because I like it seems to be the case, if you cover wide frontage, but you're not that deep, and you're infantry or something like that, then it seems like heavy cavalry should be able to run through you. One of the things that heavy cavalry should have especially been able to do that through skirmishers. Like my Bretonnian cavalry, and you've got some Skaven skirmishers or something, the Skaven skirmishers should not be able to stop a charge of heavy cavalry. And I think that actually running through something, if they are thin enough, is something that should definitely, or could definitely happen. You don't have that as much with the multi-based stuff in Kings of War. But like I said, that's one of the negatives. But on the whole, I'm still for it. I'm gonna have to get one of those eventually for doing these streams, especially. We mean pile in rules. I think I see what they're trying to do here, but I always loved pile in rules. No idea if this is going to interact with that or if it's straight up a replacement. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean by pile in, but like when I was a big pile of miniatures seemed to be what Age of Sigmar was. You know, that by the time you get deep into the battle, it's just a pile of miniatures. Skaven. Skaven should be able to jump out of the way, though. I say this as a Skaven player. Well, I might even go with that. But yeah, so the skirmishers can get out of the way of the heavy cavalry coming through. When the heavy cavalry come up and then, you hit the skirmishers, stop. Oh. So pile in is where you collide with the front rank and then get to wrap around the opposing unit for additional attacks. Yes, I do remember that part of that Warhammer. The rules encourage units with wide frontages, but the ideal number of models per rank is decided by the player, not enforced by the rules. To do this, we've ensured that as many models as possible can fight in combat, given even those models that are within their fighting rank, but not in base contact with the enemy or opportunity to bring weapons to bear. Giving even those models that are within the fighting rank, but not in base contact with the enemy, the opportunity to bring their weapons to bear. Combined with the freedom to create and arm characters as you choose from a wide variety of options, players have a lot of strategic resources or choices to make when building their units and writing their muster lists. Choices that will, in turn, inform their tactics on the battlefield. I tend to also be anti-hero. Like, we played 5th edition, which was called Hero Hammer, nicknamed Hero Hammer. And on the whole, we decided we didn't enjoy that. Like, when my brother and I started playing Kings of War, we specifically said that we are not going to be taking any heroes or things like that. We wanted it just to be a game about the units of troops. Because I hate it when you have this fantastic unit, especially if you spend a lot of time painting it and getting it ready and stuff like that. Now you've got this new unit of troops. Oh, but the hero of some kind, whether it's an elven hero or a Bretonnian hero or whatever, goes through it. I want the units of troops to mean something. Combined with the freedom to create and arm characters as you choose from a wide range of options, players have a lot of strategic choices to make when building their units and writing their muster lists. Choices that will, in turn, inform their tactics on the battlefield. Breaking the enemy. One thing we're keen for Warhammer the Old World to represent was the push and pull of battle, capturing the way in which a hard-pressed army will gradually succumb to fatigue and attrition. To achieve this, units will lose a round of combat, will often give ground reluctantly rather than immediately breaking and freeing. Now, I like that. I would include rules about giving ground, like, okay, you lose, but you don't break, but you do get pushed back. I was thinking about that for other rules. To make the battlefield more dynamic, so that, okay, when the Bretonnian cavalry hits the, medium infantry of some kind, even if they don't break, they push them back. I mean, there's movement going on the battlefield that you're not necessarily instigating, providing a more dynamic kind of feel to the battlefield. So I'm for that. To achieve this, units that lose a round of combat will often give ground reluctantly. Oh, I think I read that. Rather than immediately breaking and fleeing, while the winner can advance to press their advantage. Players will quickly learn, however, that a cunning enemy will use this push and pull of battling units to lay traps, and an advancing unit runs the risk of exposing a vulnerable flank to a well-timed countercharge. Magic is power of magic. Now, see, magic is also one of the things where we're like, let's not use the magic because it was the same kind of thing. So we have to see how this integrates it because, I got this great unit here. I spent a lot of time on it. What is this? Like the elven wizard here casts fireball and blows it apart. Like, what is this game supposed to be about? Like, that game was clearly about heroes and wizards and magic and things like that. And so I would prefer all of that to be much more understated. If it's going to be there, it needs to be much more understated. Yep, Michael Connor says there was definitely too much power creep with heroes in Warhammer. Yeah, people talking about the characters. Yeah, to me, that's not the way that I want to play, especially now. I mean, when we were kids, I think we did think that was cool, but I think my uncle was playing with him. Okay, he was less onto that, and I remember being less on that side of things. But it seems like, this is my elf hero. Okay, that's probably cooler when you're a kid. But like I said, now I want it to be about the units and the troops. To reflect this, okay, so spellcasting says magic, though, is integral to the game, though the mechanics of its use are simple. The untutored wizards of the old world practice strange lores of magic of their own devising, manipulating the winds of magic and crafting spells that suit their purpose. While such recklessness might alarm some, it gives wizards freedom to cast a wide range of spells with ease. To reflect this, spellcasting has been liberated and spread throughout the different phases of the game rather than restricted to just one. In doing so, we've ensured that every spell available to a wizard can have a significant impact upon the battle if cast at the right place at the right time. There we go. Situations where a single spell can decide the outcome of a battle are rare. The focus is shifted from keeping track of dice pools or hands of cards into the positioning of wizards. This means players will have to plan ahead, move their wizards as carefully as any other unit, both to ensure they can bring their magic to the right place at the right time and to ensure that they can counter the spells of enemy wizards. Well, we'll have to see how that goes. Final thoughts. These exciting game mechanics and many more besides, combined with classic elements of a beloved game, give players both old and new plenty to consider when planning their armies and mastering their tactics. It's an exciting time, and we're looking forward to seeing the serried ranks of fantasy armies marching across gaming tables once more. So our asterisk down here, so an early name for the game set. This is an early name for the game set in the old world. It had previously been Warhammer, the mass combat fantasy role-playing game. And then Warhammer Fantasy Battles Rules, along with many others, before finally becoming Warhammer, the Game of Fantasy Battles. Well, I kind of want to follow this, continue to follow this. So I believe it was Keith who posted this in the Discord link for News for the Grind, and so I'm glad he did. I'm kind of curious. I want to see how this goes. I have been enjoying. I need to get together with my brother to play some more Kings of War. We just did basically 2 battles with 500-point armies, and we enjoyed it. It's fast, it's light, it's fun. But like I said, if they're bringing Warhammer back, I'll at least look at it. Probably don't need 2 different, massed battle or like 28 millimeter, 32 millimeter, whatever this is, style war games. But we will see. So I'm curious. What's going on over here in the chat? Thank you, James. Thank you, PH. Please do hit the like button. Let's see. BGD says more people should mine the best parts of Warhammer Fantasy as homebrew settings content for their RPG settings. There's probably a lot. Well, I don't know. Actually, I don't know if there probably is or not. But there's a lot of material inside the Warhammer Fantasy stuff, for Warhammer Fantasy Battle stuff. I don't know how much stuff has actually been put out for the Warhammer RPG. I don't know how many different supplements there have been. James says, a lot of what we're talking about here is precisely the reason I've been exploring historical 10 millimeter. I mean, the 10 millimeter is an arbitrary choice. Well, we need to talk about War Master too, by the way. I mean, the 10 millimeter is an arbitrary choice, but I like how they look on the table. You can get a great looking setup. I remember those when they were doing the American Civil War battles. I mean, they had some fantastic setups. Some of the more ridiculous elements, but history mitigates some of the more ridiculous elements from fantasy games. The fantasy games force onto the table. Yeah, it does. But I find. I mean, I would like historical wargaming. I mean, I have, especially Napoleonic. Now, I would be interested in some Napoleonic. I was really interested in Napoleonic wargaming for a while, which, by the way, I'm really excited about the Napoleon trailer. We haven't specifically talked about that, but hey, we're going to be covering the Napoleon trailer too. I got things to say about it, but I would love to do some Napoleonic wargaming. But I find that there are more players for something that is more lightweight and also has a fantasy kind of base around where I am. My brother, kids, things like that. They like dwarves. They like elves. So we're still trying to get them to play. But, when they're playing dwarves and elves and stuff like that and Hero Quest, having armies of dwarves and elves. I mean, we enjoyed that when we were kids as well. All right. Well, let's go over and take a look at what's going on with Runehammer as well. So this is kind of like catching up in what's going on in tabletop gaming this morning here. So this morning, we're told to take a look at Crown and Skull. Coming soon. Get notified when the pre-order starts. Oh, so what is this? Okay, well, what is Crown and Skull? Okay. Welcome to Crown and Skull Volume 1, a new RPG system and setting from Runehammer. Core rules, dice-driven enemy tactics. Can I make this larger for you? Core rules, dice-driven enemy tactics, comprehensive GM tools, 40 original monsters, a massive traversable world, and a huge loot table await you within these pages. This book is thick with story and puts the player at the controls. For game masters, a convention-breaking setting. Oh, I was thinking convention like Gen Con convention. For game masters, a convention-breaking set of resources and techniques to go into the unknown with your players. No stats, no HP, no telling what may unfold. Dice-driven enemy tactics, comprehensive tools, 40 original monsters, no stats, no HP, no telling what may unfold. Okay. This rule system in Crown and Skull will provide a significant departure from the mechanics and methods that have seen such a meteoric growth in recent years. As such, settle for a brain-tickling ride into new frontiers. If you feel challenged by the player-focused aspects in this book, the prep-free GM style, well, prep-free GM style is nice, provided it can actually deliver on that. So, I mean, prep-free GMing is a good thing. That means you're in the sweet spot. Which will you choose, the Crown or the Skull? Okay, so this player's guide looks like something that we would have to take a look at on a dedicated day. Oh, okay, so it's not all there on the morning grind. Oh, look, we got Yeti. Didn't I say? Oh, Yeti folk. Yep, we got Yeti here.
Oh, it's time for a Yeti hug break. Yeti hug break, Yeti hug break. Everybody go hug yo Yeti and show yo Yeti some love.
How can we not have a Yeti hug break when we got Yeti folk in here? Have to do that. Okay, so this looks like something that we might have to look at on a dedicated day on this. Crown and Skull teaser. How long is this? Does the teaser actually tell you anything about it? A vast, perilous world engine. Heavy-hitting, bone-crunching, shield-smashing combat. Well, kind of a cool-looking trailer. But not a lot, just not a lot in the teaser. Okay, a player focus. Crown and Skull has a deep point-by character creation system and player-made combat roles that put the player center stage. You'll find everything you need to build a fully custom characters, custom equipment, and even spells built from scratch. All to code, all by the same rule set. All right, so building fully custom characters, custom equipment, and even spells. All right. So also for a toolkit for world building, but it seemed like there was a world built in too. If you're looking to jump right into the game, a handful of character templates are included, along with a rollable character prompts to thrust you into dangerous worlds in the North Holds with no delay. No stats or hit points. Brace yourself for the innovative and brutal attrition system. Player-rolled combat keeps the dice tumbling. I've been thinking about that, our conversation with Mark that we had on, was that Thursday? I think that was a fantastic conversation on game design. And it occurred to me, or several different things occurred to me about the open-ended, whether it's open-ended high or open-ended low, and who's rolling the dice. I think there's actually even more that you could do with that than we even talked about there, because that kind of got the creative juices flowing. And as I was cutting grass, I was thinking more about that. So we'll talk more about that on an RPG game design day. But that, if you're still interested in game design, definitely check that out. I think that went really well. Jafford says, I'm pretty much disillusioned over modern movies. The writer strike canceled movies that never should have come to production in the first place. Yeah. I'm hoping we're turning around. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, with the writer strike, though, I mean, I kind of was hoping things were turning around in the movie business. I was actually excited. Like this summer, there have been some stuff that's come out that is coming out or has come out that I wanted to see, which seems to be a surprise. I mean, I haven't really been going to the movies ever since before all the COVID stuff. But yeah, now I have no idea what's going to happen with the strike. Maybe we should talk to somebody about that. Cameron knows about that, except for we want to talk to him about screenwriting and story structure on Friday. So no stats or hit points. I guess we'll just have to see how that goes. Combine flaws, abilities, skills, and lineages in any way you can imagine. Build custom equipment, spells, and companions. Roll to discover new worlds, locations, and inhabitants. Earn hero points in play to evolve and grow your own way. The average GM is a chronically overloaded creative beast. This book takes a bold stance to disrupt many sacred traditions of the GM. Dare to enter a session by the seat of your pants. Trust the hex rolls, loot rolls, random NPCs, enemy tactics dice, and more to make a legendary session happen on the fly. Well, we'll see if that works. Are you ready for the madness? Crown and Skull introduces an in-depth game master's guide from modifying, inventing, and running enemies to dream states and esoteric considerations of style and story. Next level, you've got this. So World Engine, achieve the dream of a no-prep GM toolset, location and events, dice-driven enemy tactics, and much more. Okay, well, I'm curious about that too. Thank you very much for pointing this out. I didn't know this was going on. So we might have to look at that in more detail on the morning grind one morning. Oh, and I was supposed to, I needed to zoom in. Sorry about that. I need to go further. Sorry. I'll pay more attention to that next time. Good morning, Brett. James just downloaded the player's guide. Excited to read through. Okay. Well, we could look at something else, but I'm going to, I think I'm going to have to wrap this up. I'm going to go do something about this swelling and beasting. I've thought about going to see Oppenheimer because I do want to see Oppenheimer. It's a long movie though, right? And unfortunately it becomes even longer when you were, with all the, nothing starts on time. obviously. And they just pack so many trailers and things like that into here that I know that if it's a 3-hour movie, it's not going to start, 3 hours. That's 3 hours and 20 minutes. And it's a 40-minute drive to the movie theater and a 40-minute drive back. So that's going to be basically my whole day if I decide to do that. I think I can drive with the swelling. I think I can do that. But that's going to be my whole day. But I still kind of do want to see Oppenheimer. I might have already missed Mission Impossible. I know R wants to talk about Oppenheimer, but that's going to be my whole day. And I've got some stuff that I've really got to do. So I'll have to just check and see. So, all right. Yes. Stay safe, everybody. Have a happy Sunday. I appreciate your hanging out with me. I've enjoyed it. This was kind of a lightweight day, but I think important. So that was a lot of news that was going on around here. So things I didn't know what was going on. So I thought that was important. All right, everybody, be creative. Go forth, be creative, be constructive. I will see you tomorrow. Everybody grind on. Later.